Welcome to the Sharon Decker podcast, where we share stories of who we love, what we love, and places we love in Western North Carolina. So settle in, listen up, and enjoy the show. I am so happy today to introduce you to Ginger Frank. She's the founder and the co-CEO of Poppy's Handcrafted Popcorn. Now, for those of you who love popcorn like me, this is not a new name. It's not a new product. It's the best product. And we are so proud, Ginger, that you made this work in Western North Carolina. And we're so eager to hear your story. Thank you for joining me this week.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was honored to have the chance to meet you at an event that Wake Forest University sponsored a few weeks back, and I loved hearing your story. They often say that necessity is the mother of invention, and I think that's the start of your story. So tell everybody how Poppy got started and why it got started.
So Poppy started, 12 years ago. At the time, I was a single mom. I had two kids that were 7 and 9. I had a job that I really loved, but it was in a field that I worked a lot on the weekends. And so my kids were with me all the time, and I had full responsibility for them at that time. And I felt like I was just juggling them from friend to after school to accommodate my work schedule. And I felt like I really only saw them to feed them and put them to bed and get them back up the next morning. And so I was really craving more time, more flexibility to be with my kids and do the things that were most important to me at the time, but I still had to pay the bills. And so I looked for a job that might provide me with a little bit more flexibility, wasn't able to find it. And in my very blissfully naive mind, I thought, well, I'm just going to make my own job that works and provides me with more time and more flexibility. And, in hindsight, that's comical because that's not really how owning your own business works. But sometimes, ignorance is bliss. So I'd always been a popcorn lover. My background was really in retail and merchandising and branding and that kind of thing. I thought Asheville's this foodie town and we have everything, but we don't have a popcorn shop. And so I felt my calling in life was to have a little popcorn shop where I made popcorn, sold popcorn. It was a little retail shop. It was purposefully opened right down the street from my kids' school. And that was my whole vision for Poppy at that time was I needed to pay myself. So I was in the beginning my only employee because I had to earn money right away. And I thought, I'm going to set my hours. I'm going to be closed on Sunday. I'm going to close at 6 in the evening. I'm going to go down and grab my kids when they get out of school and bring them back to work with me. And at least, even though I'm still working, at least they'll be able to be with me. And so I kind of built the business around that model. And that was really the whole purpose behind opening Poppy. And I really didn't look past what might be next or what might be in the future. That was my whole vision for the business.
Right. What an incredible start and how brave and courageous. And maybe it was ignorance, as you said, but I'm going to call it
bravery.
It's
a combination of both.
Yeah, that takes a lot.
They all look like the same thing, right?
Yeah, they do. And I think that's a very important thing to point out to those who think they might want to be an entrepreneur. There has to be a little naivete to even start it. And yet vision that it's even possible. So you started this little shop on Merriman, right? In downtown Asheville. Mm-hmm. And how did you get the word out? I mean, popcorn is not like the first thing on people's minds. So how did you get it out there?
And there were a lot of, funny looks in the beginning when I first opened. People would come in and look around like, so do you sell anything here besides popcorn? I was like, nope, just popcorn. And there were lots of people that were like, okay, well, good luck. But I didn't have marketing money. I opened Poppy on the tiniest shoestring of a budget because that's all I had. And very early, I thought, okay, the best way for me to get people to come in the store is to get them to try the popcorn. And so every month I would figure out how much popcorn I could afford to give away. And I would just make phone calls to schools about their school carnival, to breweries, to events happening in town and say, I had this very cute little popcorn cart and I would say, can I show up and give out free samples of popcorn?
Brilliant.
And I did that as much as I possibly could in probably the first year.
Yeah.
And as soon as I did, people would start showing up at the store. And so it was just the best form of marketing that I could possibly do is
Mm.
to get my product in the hands of people. And so I was willing to do that for free because I just strongly felt if I could get them to taste it, they'll come buy it.
Right.
And it worked, and they
Yeah,
did.
I would say there was nothing like getting it in their mouths because it's a
Right.
fantastic product. So, did you already have the product when you opened the store to the point that you knew what your flavor combinations were gonna be, and how did that evolve? Because the food science part of it is not insignificant.
Well, again, Sharon, that was just that was just me blissfully winging it. I will tell you that I signed a lease to open up the popcorn shop before I ever made a single batch of
Wow.
popcorn outside of
Wow.
popcorn on my stove or popcorn in my microwave.
I love the positive approach to this.
I think some of this is just makeup. I know that for me, I'm an internal optimist. Like I'm always gonna any project you put in front of me, I'm gonna say we can figure this out.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do, and sometimes later on, I'm like, well, I actually couldn't figure that out, or that was a bad idea.
But,
But I
I think
don't
that's
let
the
it.
true sign
And
of
I
an
think some of
entrepreneur.
that is just like it's just genetic. It's just
Yeah.
part of it's part of your makeup and how you're made. So yeah, no, I mean, I started with about 6 flavors and I was still perfecting those flavors the day before I opened that
Gosh.
shop.
Wow.
When I started like really testing and trying it out, I would make batches and I printed out these little like kind of feedback cards and I would drop popcorn off all over town to all of my friends and say, "Taste this popcorn, fill out these cards for me, tell me what you
That's
think."
smart.
And then I would take those and I would make changes, and so, no, I did not perfect it until and I still haven't perfected it. It's always a work in progress when you're
Sure.
making new recipes and things like that, but, I had just enough to get by, and then when I kinda started figuring out the formula, it was easier for me to make new things.
Yeah.
We have some new flavors launching in about 30 days that I'm super excited about, but I still use that same process. Like we make flavors, we have little cards that people fill out, we do it internally, still take it to like some of our friends. We have a couple of customers over the years that we like send new flavors to and ask for their feedback, but it's still a very just organic, small process of how we decide what flavors are going to make it into the lineup and what aren't.
Yeah. Very importantly, though, customer focused
Yeah.
and customer feedback early in the process.
Yeah.
So, at what point did you say there's a bigger opportunity here and you thought you could wholesale it? And how did that evolve?
So when I opened the store, it was October of 2014, not intentional. It's just how it worked out. So I opened up going into the holiday season, which
Mhm.
happened to be a really great thing that I just kind of stumbled into. And so because of where we were located in North Asheville, I feel like Asheville is just such a small business supportive town.
Yes.
I often say if I would have opened Poppy in some other city, it may not have made it or
Yeah.
not made it to where we are today. But Asheville has just notoriously been supportive of small business. And so people would show up and started shipping, asking, can we ship this to our family? Can we ship this to our friends? And all along the way, I think in the early days, you're like, of course you can. And as soon as they leave the building, you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll take this to the post office and see
How
how
do I
I
do
package
this?
this up
Yeah.
and figure out
Yeah.
how to send it. Right. So after popcorn started kind of like leaving Asheville, whether it was shipped or whatever to friends and family, people started calling. And it was about 6 months later that I got the first phone call of, I had your popcorn. I really love it. I have a little shop. I would love to carry it in my shop. And that had never occurred to me. At that time, we were just putting popcorn in a plastic bag with a twist tie. And
Yeah.
it was not, you had to eat it within, 3 or 4 days before it went stale. So it was not a shelf stable product. So once I started getting, several of those phone calls, after I got about 20 of those phone calls over a series of several months, I thought, I should probably figure out how to sell this to other people in their
Yeah.
stores because there's an opportunity here.
Yeah.
So I had no idea how to do that. Google was my best friend. I Googled the heck out of like, how do you package popcorn for it to be shelf stable? How long does it last? What's
Wow.
the shelf life? And it took me about 9 months of research and making phone calls and asking all the questions to all the people that were willing to give me answers until I felt comfortable that I could put popcorn in a bag and sell it to somebody else and they could have it for a few weeks or a few months and it would still be okay.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. Asheville Community Theater
Yeah.
in Asheville was our very first wholesale customer.
great that it was somebody local that
It was
wanted
somebody
more.
local and they just, I was just honest. I was like, "Listen, you're our first customer. Thank you so much for being our guinea pig. Like, can you open this popcorn in 2 weeks and tell me what it tastes
Yeah.
like?" And,
Did it work?
I
Yeah.
think just being
Oh, I
honest and
love that.
vulnerable
Yeah,
and just bringing your customers into the process with you, it just helped me learn, and it also just kind of built this thing that they were, like, invested with me, They
right.
were like, "We're part of this process." And so pretty soon, Diana Wortham Theater wanted it, and then the
Wonderful.
Aloft Hotel wanted it, and and it just kind of grew.
Yeah.
And even at that time, I didn't foresee it going outside of Asheville or Western North Carolina. Then the phone calls kept coming in, and it just organically just kept growing, and I just kept learning, like, how do I take the next step?
Yeah.
How do I
And
do
how many
this?
how many states now do you
Every
deliver
state.
to? Every state and probably some foreign countries? Are you getting some international orders too? Or is that
Well,
possible?
we do get attempts for international orders, but there is a lot of
Yeah,
red tape around food regulation leaving the country,
right,
going in and out of the country. So we legally cannot sell to other countries yet. That's a whole different process.
right.
And one I'm sure that I will learn at some point. It will evolve. But
Amazing.
yes, right now we're just in the US and we do have other stores carrying our product in every state.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And the notion that it started as a way to spend more time with your children,
Yeah.
one, I can't think of anything more motivating to us as mothers that we would
Yeah.
want to find ways that just give us more time and presence with our children. I understand they were your first salespeople, and
They
I'm
were.
certain that you must have taken them with the cute popcorn cart too. So,
I mean, I have the cutest pictures, just sometimes I look back, I feel like when you're in it, it's kind of like when you have kids, you're just so in the moment and you're head down, life as you know it right in front of you, and then you pull out some pictures and you're like, "Oh my gosh, like time
yeah,
goes by so quickly and everything grows so quickly, businesses and kids alike."
right.
And but yes, sometimes I look back at those early pictures of these little kids who had to stand on a stool to reach the cash register, but yeah,
But they
they were
learned so
my first
much.
employees and they loved it at times. They many times were like, "Are we going to the popcorn shop again?" I was like, "Yep, we sure
Are we
are,
having
kids.
popcorn for
Load up. We're
supper?
going." Yep. And they're like, "Are
That's
we
what my
having
kids would have
popcorn
been
for
asking.
dinner?" And I'm like, "Yep, we sure are."
You get a new flavor tonight.
Right? And they're like, "Could we get something besides popcorn for
Yeah.
dinner?" We're like, "Not tonight." But, it's been a process. I mean, they're now 19 and 21. I think as moms, we always struggle with like, are we doing the right thing? Are we, you feel like you're not doing your best at work, you're not doing your best as a parent, like you feel divided between the two things. And I think that's something like we as moms always, always struggle with.
Always
But
question.
now that there's been some time and space, like I can look back and see them as these like little adults and see like what an impact it has had on them for them to like just witness the resilience and tenacity and just like it has not been a smooth ride, but they've seen me show up on the hard days and just keep going
In all
and
circumstances.
all
And what
circumstances
a
and just
powerful
yeah,
lesson. What a powerful lesson.
yeah.
Ginger, talk about all circumstances. So you, in the last couple of years, have invested in much larger manufacturing space, obviously, because your business, both retail and wholesale, grew so significantly. And then Hurricane Helene came. And talk to us about the last couple of years and how that's challenged and encouraged your business both.
So, it's just honestly, by the time the hurricane came, I felt like I was I was like, I'm a master of disaster. Like, this is nothing. Hurricanes, no big deal. So we had grown into a new space back in 2017. And we were in that space for a year. And that space was in Black Mountain. And we had a heavy snowfall in December of that year, and the roof of our building collapsed.
Oh, wow.
And we lost everything in that building. It was during our busiest month of the year.
Yeah.
We still at that time had the Merriman Avenue store, which was so tiny. And it took us, I mean, I thought it was something that I would never recover from. I
Yeah.
was like, there's no way I can rebuild this. I don't have the money to do this. Fortunately, about 2 months prior to that happening, I had just renewed my insurance policy. And at that time, my insurance agent said, "Ginger, you have not touched this policy since you opened your business. And I really am going to encourage you to take the time and like update things. I know people think they never need insurance and they don't take the time, but
Yeah.
if something were to happen right now, you would not have the coverage that you truly need. And so I was like, fine, I'll do it. Like, had I not done that, I,
Underscore the importance of having great partners when you're in
yep.
business on your own, particularly to help you with things like that. Thank goodness for her.
Well, you just never
No.
have the time for everything. So
Right.
you deal with what's right in front of you.
Yep.
And at that moment, insurance felt like, a pain that I just had to pay for, but didn't
Yeah.
feel like I had the money. I didn't feel like I, wanted to take the time. And it just was such a gift. She just was like, Ginger, I'm just really going to encourage you to do this. So I did. And had I not, we would have not been able to recover from that
Yeah.
disaster.
Yeah.
And it took a while. It took us about 8 months to get that insurance claim and rebuild into a new space. And so
Mhm.
we went back to the original store and we were just working 24 hours a day because of the
Yeah.
small capacity there. So that was a huge, at that time, like that wasn't a citywide event. Like I didn't have other people experiencing it. So it was my first insurance claim, my first like big, really thing that I was dealing with like that. But I learned so much through that process.
Mm.
And then as soon as we built out the new facility, 6 months later, COVID arrived.
Oh, gosh.
And so it was like, okay, we're finally getting back on our feet. And now there's a
Yeah.
pandemic. So, just through these things, you just learn like things you never thought you would have to learn.
Yeah. You can predict it all, right? And
Right.
you can't plan for it.
It's just a part of life, right? You can put all your plans in place. Doesn't mean that that's how they're going to go. And you have to be ready to like go down this winding road. It might be a longer route to where you're going, but you're still heading in the same direction. It's just you've taken this side path. And, I think one of the things that I've learned is whether it was our roof collapse, COVID, the hurricane, those things really just force you to like buckle down and figure things out. And out of those things always come so much growth. And it really forces you to prioritize the important things and kind of strip away the things that are just noise and are just getting in your way. And through each of those disasters, we've just come out stronger.
Yeah.
And it never, ever feels like that in the moment. But if you just keep, I've learned if I can just like stay focused and keep going and stay calm and know that, I definitely trust in the fact that there's no way we've come this far to stop now. Like
Right.
we've just jumped too
Lost
many
energy.
hurdles to like fall
Yeah.
on our faces now.
No,
And
exactly.
so I try to just keep that positive, and it doesn't work every day.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. There's some days I just want to cry and say, what am I doing?
And some days I hope you do cry
Yeah, I
and
do.
ask those
For
questions
sure.
because I think sometimes, particularly as women and
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, we think, I can't let my guard down. I got to be
Yeah.
tough. I got to be strong. But it's so important to be honest with yourself, right? And that requires a lot of emotion.
I think you have to be because I mean, like, there's one thing that's just like this kind of like positive, I think you have to have this like eternal optimism, but you also have to have this eternal realism. Like, you can't live in this like hypothetical bubble,
Right.
like
Right.
life is real and you have to figure it out. And for me, I think what I found is the most important thing is to surround myself with people that can handle all of that,
Right.
like
Right.
they're excited for the
Such an
highs and the
important
good things
point.
that happen, but they're also okay when you just show up crying and say, "Open the wine. I Today sucked."
Yeah,
Like
such an important point
it is.
because I think sometimes we don't stop to really think when we're interviewing people, you're not only looking for skills and competencies, but you're looking for people who are willing to be a part of a culture that's real
Mhm.
and that can be honest about when it's working and when it's not.
Yeah.
You're all on the same page. Yeah.
For sure. I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned over the last 12 years. It's really just real. I feel like in our world of like social media, like the outward appearance of life, of people's lives, of people's business is always this really rosy, and you can get caught up with like, why does this look so amazing? And over here, I'm just like digging through the mud all the time. And I think until you have those like personal relationships with your peers and people doing this same thing that you're doing, that's when you realize like we're all just digging through the mud.
Right.
And because it can feel super isolating, like
No, it
you
can.
have your team, you have your family, you have your friends, but no one else, for me is in my position other than somebody in another company in the
Right.
same position.
Right.
When it comes down to it, it's on me. It's up to me and it's on me.
Yeah,
And that is a heavy load to carry sometimes. And
it is.
sometimes you need somebody else who's in that place to just, commiserate with
Right.
you
To
how that feels
listen,
sometimes.
listen. I hear so much, Ginger, in your story. People, I think, overuse the term resiliency. So I'm going to say agility, nimbleness, the
Mhm.
ability to make a turn, to stop and assess where you are and recognize the shift that's got to take place or the change that's got to be made. And that is resiliency, and you've got a lot of it. I think another thing that it reminds me is that I hear folks so often saying, when is this going to get easier? And the reality is, owning your own business is not easy.
Mm-mm.
And there's really not a time that you get to a place and say, boy, this is a piece of cake. You always have to be working at it, reinventing it, rethinking it, particularly when you're in a consumer product business, because commerce is changing, the
Yep.
environment's changing, people's preferences and likes are changing. And so you can't afford to kind of get to that place of calm. In fact, an entrepreneur said to me one time, Sharon, the only time I've ever felt calm, disaster was just ahead.
Right.
So she said, I've just come to understand that it's
Yep.
it's not the calm you're looking for. It is finding a place of your own confidence and ability to recognize that, this is a really good space and we're going to work that out and work through it. And when we get to the hard space, we're going to do it there too.
Yeah.
And you have certainly experienced that in your very short time, really, in creating a very successful business. Someone asked me recently, what do you think is the most recognizable Western North Carolina brand? And I said, Poppy, handcrafted pop.
Aw,
I
Sharon.
did, because I see it all over the country. I have sent it to friends all over the country, and it's so Asheville mix is my favorite.
Thank
And
That
and
is
it
so
just it allows
generous
me
and
to
sweet.
share a part of home with folks all over the place. It's been especially true during COVID. People will say to me, and still do, and it's still true when I say this to all of you who are listening, what can you do to help Western North Carolina now? Buy our products. Buy our
Yeah.
products,
Buy our products.
because they're great and they are delicious, in this case, delicious. And they're made right here by people who live and work in Western North Carolina. And I'm grateful too, Ginger, for the number of jobs you've created. How many folks do you have in your team?
We have about 30.
Uh-huh.
And that is something people say, do you stop and are you so proud of what you've created? And I think you and I talked about this for a quick minute when we were together a couple of weeks ago. I'm not great at stopping and taking a look back. I mean, I do here and there, but I feel like every day is just feels so critical to keep moving and keep making good decisions, because there's so many times where you don't make good decisions and then you have to make up for those decisions and you have to own those decisions and you have to course correct. And so it's just this constant learning and trying to keep one foot in front of the other. But the one thing that I do feel really proud of is that we are just trying our very best to be a good place for people to work and to make a living and to support their family and really to just be part of something that not everybody gets to be a part of. Watching this process and being a part of, something growing and something that's impactful to our community and always striving to show up well in our community is something that our team takes such great
Thank
pride
you
in.
for
And
that. Thank you.
for me, that is because I started Poppy because I needed a job. I needed time with my kids. And so that's something that we really try to do here is you know, you need to go on a field trip. You need to go, go. We want you to
You.
go. And
Good.
so that's what I kind of hold most dear is, we haven't always gotten it right, but I'm always striving to do right by my team.
To be a good employer. That's a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful objective. And one I think you and I both share is something
Yeah.
really important in what we do and in what we create. One last question. There are a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to us. What advice would you give?
Wow. I could write a whole book on that,
I
Sharon.
hope you will. I hope
And
you
one day
will.
I'm going to.
You
It's going to
will.
be a really, really big, long, interesting book. But, I think what I've learned is I think all along the way, it's hard. I think you have to have this in your blood. You have to love the game.
Yeah.
You have to love the puzzle. And I think, sometimes people see the the fun and pretty and side of things. And there's lots of those as well. But
Mhm.
it's hard. And I think along the way, you have to be true to yourself if at any point you feel like this isn't what you want, or this isn't the right fit for you. I think that there's a lot of really great ideas that don't necessarily turn into successful businesses. And I think in my mind over the years, I've always thought, I wonder why this didn't make it. Like, this was a really good idea. I wonder why this company didn't make it. And I think you have to have people at the table, not only yourself, but the people on your team have to have that entrepreneurial mindset, because it is not a straight line. It is a winding road, and you have to kind of thrive in that environment for it to be worth the lift, I guess.
Right.
And so, because it does, it seeps into every part of your life.
Yes.
And
it is a way of life to be
it is a way of life.
Yes.
And
to understand that.
There are many great things about that, but it also is difficult. And so I think being clear that it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of work. You're going to screw things up. You're going to do things wrong. People are going to be critical of you. People show up to be excited for you, but people also take pleasure in kind of the downsides sometimes. And it's hard. You take it personal. You wear it. You have to be resilient in the fact that you love this process and you love what you're trying to do so much that none of that matters. And I think figuring that out early on, it's for some people and it's not for everyone. And just knowing if that's for you or not for you, and it's okay.
Right.
If you figure out it's not okay, that's okay.
Such an important.
And it's not failure. It's just a part of your journey.
It is. And better knowing yourself and where your passions exist.
Yeah.
That's very good insight to share. Ginger, I'll never thank you enough for being with me. We'll do this again at some point, get an update on Poppy. But Ginger Frank, the CEO of Poppy Handcrafted Popcorn. You're going to find all the information, get direct to her website. Look for it in your local stores. It's everywhere. Buy it now in a little handy pack, I'm going to call it, that you can pick up and go for. Sometimes it's my lunch, Ginger. I have to admit to that.
I love that, Sharon. Mine too. So
and
I have popcorn in my office as we speak.
Of course. And larger sizes, you can share it at a party and share it with friends. But wherever you share it and whatever you do with it, it's a great product. Are you willing to share what these new flavors are going to be, or do you have to hold that till they come out? These coming out this spring.
I cannot share the flavors, but I will tell you that it is a celebration of summer.
Okay.
And we did special packaging that's going to come out the middle of May around America's 250th anniversary.
Fantastic.
And so it's the first time we've done something like this. The packaging is fun. The flavors are fun. So keep an eye out for it. We're really excited about it.
Wonderful. Be watching out for it in May, right?
May. Yep.
And buy lots of it. Should be on every 4th of July celebration table this summer.
We'll be having a big Memorial Day sale the week before for these flavors. So keep your eye out. All right. They're really fun.
We'll run some social media to promote that.
Okay.
It's great to see you, Ginger.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks for the gift of your time. And thanks for the gift.
Great to be with you. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us this week for the Sharon Decker podcast, where, once again, we've shared what we love, where we love, and the people we love in Western North Carolina. Join us next week, too. And in the meantime, you'll find us at SharonDecker.com or on Instagram at TheSharonDecker.